Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor, and I'm filling in for Harry Keeling. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Directors for the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, and I also manage the Aviation Safety Program with the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. I'm also a commissioned officer in the U.S. Public Health Service. This evening, we are honored to have Ro Bailey on our show. Ro is the Deputy Director for Unmanned Aircraft Systems Integration, and she is the Director of the Pan-Pacific UAS Test Range Complex. Ro has an impressive background in the Air Force, and she retired as a Brigadier General. She's an Alaskan by choice, and she mentioned to me that she is living the dream. Ro, welcome.
Thank you.
The Alaska Center for Unmanned Aircraft Systems Integration is a research center at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. You're doing some research there, testing for small unmanned aircraft systems, or UAS. Can you tell me a bit about the program and what's the goal of the program?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The goal of the Alaska Center is to increase the number of applications for small unmanned aircraft systems, to separate them from what most people think of when they talk about drones, and we don't use that word, drones, because it gets people thinking about military, and the beneficial uses for unmanned aircraft systems in the civilian world is significant. So we're trying to do that. We're also trying to provide operational support to scientists whose data requirements in many cases put them or their pilots in very dangerous situations. You can put an unmanned aircraft system into those arenas without risking human life, and so it's much safer. And then also where the data collection is tedious or it's in dangerous situations like flying over a volcano, where the worst that happens is you might lose a piece of equipment, but you're not going to harm someone's life. So we're expanding all of those things, and then also working to find the ways to better integrate these small unmanned aircraft systems into the national airspace system so they can be used more broadly for those sorts of purposes.
It sounds like there are some great safety implications for what you're doing. Can you tell me what your funding sources are? Who pays for all of this testing and research?
Well, most of the work that we do for scientists and for civil authorities like Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management is funded by grants that are provided to us. It may be from federal agencies like National Science Foundation or NOAA, or it may be from a local agency like Department of Transportation Aviation, or it could be an association like Northern Fisheries Association, who were interested in identifying whether there really was a shortage of Steller sea lions out in the Aleutians, or in fact maybe that the feds hadn't been able to collect as good data as they would hope.
So you're doing a lot to monitor and hopefully improve some of the wildlife in Alaska and around Alaska.
We are. We can get to places where the wildlife are, but where flying a small manned aircraft would be pretty risky business. So the Aleutians, for example, the weather conditions tend to be much more on the atrocious side than on the lovely day for flying kind of side. And furthermore, with a small system, we can launch from a boat. So we went out on one of the deadliest catch boats, flew a couple of our systems off the boat, and were able to do 39 missions in conditions where manned aircraft wouldn't have taken off. But we could fly into a sucker hole and get back on board before the weather deteriorated, and were able to collect an enormous amount of data monitoring those sea lions. Similarly, we can locate polar bears without disturbing them. We find when we're looking at these animals, they don't know we're there. With a manned helicopter, they're looking up and diving over the side into the water. With our system, they're just hanging out, doing whatever it is they do.
So if the wildlife can't see you and you're undetected by them, it sounds like pilots who are flying in Alaska really need to pay attention and look out for the UAS.
They do, but I should say that because we know we're the newest guy on the block, we take it as our job, and the FAA actually tells us it's our job to look out for everyone else. And so one of the big challenges to integrating small unmanned aircraft systems into the national airspace system is the need to figure out a way to reliably and effectively detect and avoid other aircraft all the time. And so that will be one of the things we'll be testing in the future under our test site designation.
Great. This is really interesting information, Ro, and I really appreciate you being here. Ladies and gentlemen, please tune in to our next show, and we're going to talk to Ro a little bit more and hear about what they're testing. This is a great reminder to see and avoid, as every pilot needs to take responsibility for seeing other aircraft. So always keep an eye out of the aircraft while you're flying. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Fly safely. We're going to talk about like you mentioned, some of the hazardous types of flying that pilots used to do, such as low-level flight over large bodies of cold water, and being able to see them. What are you doing to prevent mid-air collisions? So you can talk about that.
All right.
And then I will ask about how long you expect to keep these things testing in Alaska.
Okay.
And if it comes up, I'd like to ask about...
Now, if you ask again about the funding for the test site, because I didn't get to that, I realized I stopped talking and it's like, wait, that was my big opportunity and I didn't say it. Oops.